Welcome everybody. This is the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup Men's Semifinal. I'm Ryan Meyer, joined by Daryl Now, and this is the FWS World Series live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Thank you so much for joining us around the world. We are so happy to present this to you in the beautiful country of Canada and my homeland. I'm so happy to be back here. It's a beautiful city, as you can see out here. We have moved our locations. Last year, we used to be in Harlech Park. This year, we are in Louise McKinney Riverfront Park. That is very close up into the city center by, I believe, Canada Place. So make sure you guys mark that on your calendar. Come out here, and if you're not able to physically make it out to the location, make sure you guys come and check us out online. Social media, that is right. FWS.official is a Facebook page, at FWS World, and at FWS World for Twitter and Instagram. FWS World Series on Snapchat, and as well, make sure you hashtag your posts FWS Edmonton and FWS World Series to stay involved with all the action. We are a global series, a 5-stop World Series. Stop number 1 ended up in Hiroshima, Japan. That was our first time to Japan, and we are coming back for vengeance as well next year. Super happy to bring a lot of the Japanese riders on tour with us, but as well, where it all started, Montpellier, France. This is the home ground for the FWS. Moving over for a 30th year in a row to Edmonton, Canada. Then we're going to be in Hungary, Budapest, and then for the final stop in Chengdu, China. That as well is going to be in November, and as we get closer to that date, you are going to see more athletes coming out and more nations putting their forces down, as that is going to be the opening spot for the Olympics in 2020.
Well, Ryan, now that we're talking about the World Series, let's zoom in for a moment to Edmonton. We have a one-of-a-kind park. As we pull back, we can see constructed by Hurricane Parks. Now, this was built specifically for this contest. What we're seeing are a few signature FWS pieces, but the thing that's very different than this from our first stop in Hiroshima, this is a very traditional skate park. What I mean by that, there's a lot of box jumps that are featured in the center of the park. You can see a step-up version, a camelback version, a driveway version, a step-up, and also on the far end of your course, there's an extended box jump, a extended spine, which is very steep on either side. And then we've got our battleship ramp right there, which has a steep quarter pipe and a snow plow on either side where riders can transfer one side to the other. Now as we look at the other way, you can see the elevated part of the course with our wall ride and also sub-box features. So it's going to be very interesting to see what our riders throw down. But what we're going to also do is look to the sky at our 5 judges. We've got from the UK, Dave Cleworth, the street legend Van Homan from the USA, the German X Games prior medalist Marcus Wilke. And then we have from Slovenia, Luka Kovic, and then another USA rider, the street legend as well, Brian Kaczynski. Those are our 5 judges. They're under the watchful eye of Bart de Jong, who is the head technical delegate from the UCI. They are going to be breaking down because they have so much BMX history within them. A lot of them have wrote a lot of the tricks or have been there the first time that they were actually even invented or happened. And we know that our riders that are going to be out on the course, they are going to be breaking down the craziness. But let's take a look at our format to see which way our 24 riders will be on the course. They'll be in 6 separate heats, 4 riders apiece, 2 runs up to 60 seconds with the best run counts, and they'll be getting their score after the run. So by the numbers, 24 riders, 6 heats, 4 riders apiece, 2 runs up to 60 seconds per rider, and it's going to be the best run that counts, and that is such a crucial factor. In 2018, we changed it. It is not overall. It's the best run that counts, and we are going to be seeing some very unique riding because of that. The pressure winds up coming off the riders in terms of having to be perfect out there. But the judges are going to be looking for the rider on the course. Difficulty, amplitude, originality, and style, variety of tricks, consistency, and control, and a big one that's not on there. But Ryan, it is our favorite to talk about, and that is style.
Style definitely plays the biggest factor for us out here in the freestyle portion of the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cups it is just an amazing thing that you can actually see a personality of a rider showcase on course. You really see the diversity and the difference in that aspect amongst all other riders.
Now, these ramps were designed and constructed specifically here for Edmonton, but we mentioned this is a World Series and a World Tour, so let's rewind the clock a little bit and take a look at some of our highlights as we started the season off in Hiroshima. As you can see, that course right there is definitely more bowl featured. And what I mean by that, transitions were the name of the game everywhere. You had to ride the course the way that you would link the runs together, and all of the hits. We're looking out there as Kenneth Tensio, as he went up throwing that cork 720 over the spine. There was a backflip drop-in
from
I believe Bruce? This is Brandon. No, this is Brandon Lupos,
yes.
Our winner out there. I was so impressed. We're looking at the big tricks that he threw down, but Lupos flowed the park like no other rider. That's why he was in first, Tensio in second, and take note of Daniel Dares was in third.
Look at out here in Montpellier, France. Can you believe how many people come out to this absolutely amazing event out there on the Les River in Montpellier? Just a beautiful spectacle that we have out there. That is Nick Bruce out there shredding this amazing course.
Nick Bruce, our current point leader, and that was wild style flare transfer into the vert wall. There is a look at the flare tail whip. So much height for Bruce right there. So there were our riders. We saw a little taste, a preview of what's to come, but let's look at our riders for our semifinal.
Istav Khaled starting off with the first rider out of the gate. Bryce Tryon, Daniel Sandoval, Mark Webb, Kenneth Tensio, Brian Fox, Jake Leva, Joel Bondu, Alex Nicolin,
Pat Casey, Alex Colborn, James Jones, Kostya Andreev, Dennis Anderson, Jake Woolwork, Daniel Dares, Logan Martin, Marin Rantesh, Brandon Lupos, Jeremy Mallet. And we should have four more other riders, or three more, excuse me, Rim Nakamura, Nick Bruce, and Justin Dowell. So the way that those names are listed and established, it's reverse order from our open qualifier. The Feast World Series is open to every and all rider that wants to come in. If you heard my partner in crime, Ryan, say, woo, when I read a certain name, he was referencing Dennis Anderson.
Super excited to see that one. Dennis actually came out to Montpellier, France, but unfortunately the airlines lost his bike. He was not able to make it into the actual contest. I'm super excited to see that boy come out here and compete on the FIS World Series.
And for all of our BMX fans, you know that Dennis was the 2016 X Games gold medalist, and it's going to be the first time that we're seeing him compete in a FIS contest. But right now, we're getting ready to watch the Frenchman roll in for his first run of two. This is Esteban Calais coming in. So 60 seconds starts now.
Whoa, getting the going down hard right there on that backflip double tail whip, as well known as the helicopter. As you know, I actually learned that from you myself. Daryl has, I call him the encyclopedia of BMX. He gives me all the knowledge that I was too late to the table to figure out as I came up to the world of BMX.
Well, it's the important thing. Look, a name's a name, right? you know that anyone online in the comments section, if you get tongue twisted or said something from 3,000 names you call an event, and if one happens to be you say the wrong thing, you know people take it serious and personal, which they should. You're invested in the event, you're out there. But if you have a name at your own local park or your local contest that you call something, it's about getting rad on your bike. The name can be secondary. But if you are going to reference something, yes, the backflip double tail whip is known as the helicopter. We actually saw the backflip single tail whip go down for the first time in women's BMX history. It was Shanice Silva Cruz who attempted it. She didn't pull it. But right now, the USA rider, Big B, my man, Bryce Tryon, is going to be dropping in with his 60 seconds. So you can see Bryce right now getting locked and loaded, ready to be shot at the cannon. As we talk about this being BMX freestyle, riders can choose any section of the course that they'd like to start. And basically, the reason being, they could have their first hit that's established. Some will take to a box jump. It's very rare, but you might see some set up for a quarter pipe, maybe for a transfer or a gap. But the important thing to note, Ryan, is the fact that it's 60 seconds on the clock, and you could wind up setting up for the rest of your run of where you're basically going to be connecting A, B, C, and D as the clock goes through. But right now we see Bryce waiting for his moment as the feast flags are just flapping in the wind here in Edmonton. It is so gorgeous, this city, and it's actually one of the best cities in the world to combine nature with an urban environment. We have more parklands in Edmonton than any other city. I believe one of their downtown parks is 22 sizes bigger than New York Central Park, just to give you a scale. But when you have Mother Nature combined in those environments with big open rolling fields, you potentially could get wind or storms rolling in like we had yesterday during our qualifier. So right now the wind is definitely whipping. We're going to take a moment for the wind to kind of settle down and see what we think. We do have the head technical delegate, Bart DeJong, who works with our rider representatives and makes sure that it is safe for the riders out there. But it looks like Bryce isn't going to have an opportunity to wait anymore as he starts things off. Bar spins one way with the 360, the other with the backflip, and the third with the tail whip first. Yes!
And suicide no-hander over that extended box on the Explore Edmonton spine, we would call that. Getting some nice momentum into that 360 tail whip on that spine.
Come on, Bryce, looking for his footing as he pops a big flare, lands high up on the transition into a double tail whip over the camel. We're actually seeing Bryce Tryon come into his own before our eyes. He's been competing for the last several years, but right now we're looking at a rider just finding his own signature as he's taken the Sharpie to the course as Bryce is going up over the step up with the bar spin. I believe that might have been his opposite direction, going around the elbow as Bryce is looking to put a big final exclamation point as he's got 5 seconds to go. Tuck no-hander, 3, 2, 1, bar spin. And that is time for a big run for the Big B, Bryce Tryon.
There we go. Rider number 2 out of the gate so far for the men.
Yeah, Bryce, right, started things off. He had those 360 bar spin, backflip bar spin, and then he had the tail whip into a bar spin. 3 different hits. You see him putting the tricks together. The one thing to note on that flare where he popped the height, he didn't transfer far over. He wound up coming in right on the line, keeping his speed and momentum, pushing through that transition. And there we saw the Superman over that box at the end, putting a little bit of a super style in there. So again, the scores are going to be 1 to 100. Bryce Tryon with the 76.60. Since unfortunately our French rider went down, this is going to be the first score that we're going to see on the board. So the benchmark, the score to beat, is the 76.6.
Moving forward, we have none other than Daniel Sandoval.
Daniel Sandoval, it is, the USA rider, just celebrated a birthday. It was so cool to see some of the fellow riders go to his room with a cake, and right there, bringing the birthday surprise with that transfer straight into a tail whip. 1, 2, 3 times around, I believe.
I do believe that was a triple, yes, and into that front flip, tuck no-handed behind the back, suicide clap, we call that, maybe? Wow, and then that combination, 360 bar spin to tail whip, huge tuck no-hander out of the honor quarter pipe, hitting that camel hump. Nice 360.
In 2017, Sandoval was 5th overall. He definitely has what it takes to be on top of that podium.
Sandoval coming back up to the step up. Nice 360 tail whip. Setting up with the bar spin back into the Explore Edmonton spine. Skipping around it for some speed on that Hurricane Parks quarter pipe and getting the transfer back. Last seconds, and there's that front flip flare from Daniel Sandoval.
Yeah, Sandoval throwing down a big one right there. As a lot of our riders might know, Sandoval was a pioneer with modern-day jumping tricks, specifically rewinding the clock back to Rebel Jam in Eindhoven. I remember him shutting down the contest, putting on a demo with all different variations of downside 360 tail whips. But right there is a 180 with the triple whip. Here's a front flip, as you said, clapping it behind the back right there. Full extension on those arms, and then throwing down that lawn dart, the front flip flare transfer. Originally invented by Keith McElhaney, but right there, Sandoval making it look smooth as he's putting down, and hopefully the numbers will match that solid run. Again, it's 60 seconds. They want to see that full pull beginning to end. as we got Mark Webb in staging 85.20. The birthday boy, Sandoval, throwing a big score up on that wall, sticking it nice and high.
And putting it down to the total BMX rider all the way from the United Kingdom. This is none other than Mark Webb. The Webby Show, as we call it in Montpellier, when we do the 9 p.m. mini ramp contest. Mark Webb has become famous in the FIS World Series, and he's back competing on the park circuit here. Huge 360 invert over that spine. Big transfer, 360 tuck no-hander. Double tail whip off the honor quarter pipe. 360 bar spin. Perfect rotation and hitting that transition. That was a knack foot plant on the wall. Haven't seen... Oh! Mark Webb missing the catch on that 720 bar. Going down possibly pretty hard, hurting his hip.
You can see Mark right there holding his lower back. There's a really great documentary on Mark Webb that really shows behind the scenes of a BMX rider and some of the trials and tribulations we're dealing with injury. And in that documentary, Mark really goes through a very difficult back injury. This was shot several years ago, but sometimes when a rider falls, they can definitely re-injure an ailment they might have had from a prior date. So I don't know if that's what we're looking at right now, or maybe it's just something fresh that he just wound up cracking open. But we're not going to speculate because we do have our best medical staff. We have Trish Bear down there, Bear Essentials. And thankfully, Mark Webb looks like he's going to walk off on his own accord. Big ups Edmonton for showing the love.
Yeah, that's always a tough one, as you say. I mean, I could just see him come down very hard, driving his knee, possibly offsetting his pelvis or lower back on that landing, actually. Just missing the hand on that cork 720 bar spin. Really high consequence trick if you do not get the catch on those handlebars.
Let's see what he's got. This is
Moving to the next rider, second run for Ista.
So we talk about being best run counts format. It looks like his first run's a 4.8. That's what you get when you go down on the first trick. But coming back right here, straight to pedals. And
whoa!
That was a big pull, maxing out his height right there on that flare.
Decade over the camel hump.
Wow, the Frenchman right here started things off solid. So he was our last rider to qualify. And this is a preview of what we're about to see as we progress through the list, because it's reverse order. I mean, this is a work of art, setting up for that downside tail whip after that transfer.
Wow, big combinations off almost every single hit. 360 tail whip down the step up.
This is a superstar run right now we're seeing.
From side to side of the course, really utilizing every feature that he can get his hands on.
Yes!
Beautiful flare whip, not getting the pedals on the rollout right there.
That is very disheartening that he wound up slipping the pedals. And the reason I say that, still a tremendous run for the Frenchman, but since it's the UCI and we've got our 5 judges up there, they are looking for perfection. This is the road to the Olympics for Tokyo 2020, and you want to have a full pull the entire run. But now what we're seeing is nothing but a highlight reel. This 720, you can see him set up to wind up getting that full spring, catapulting 2 perfect rotations over the spine. Here is a front flip going way past the landing. And then here's a look at that flare tail whip up on the quarter pipe, getting the feet around. Not enough though, slips the pedals. But we're going to see if he will be heavily deducted or not. His first run was a 4.8, as said. There's a lot of room to move up. And look at that, a 70.80. It looks like the judges really are going to be playing very heavily and deducting if you slip a pedal based on that score. Well, this is the world stage, so the judges are looking for riders to bring their A game, and our next rider from the United States, Bryce Tryon, looking to bring an A+ game to run at number 2 as he goes to that backflip bar spin potential no-hander.
Then going for the tail whip to bar spin on that honor quarter pipe. Nice cork flip on the step up right there.
Ryan, I love that suicide no-hander.
Wow.
Over the extended spine. Most riders, when they showed up, they said, what is that beast of a ramp? And most riders have been avoiding it in our qualifying. So we're going to see if maybe Bryce is bucking the trend, or maybe he's just going to set the standard by jumping across with that suicide no-hander.
What does he have? Big Superman over the Edmonton box jump. Nice tuck no-hander and coming back to the step-up feature. Showing some lip tricks now with that foot jam as the clock winds down. Looking back to see how many seconds he has left. 1 foot table, and that's going to be it.
For the 17-year-old Bryce Tryon. The next time we see you stand right.
So Bryce with another solid run, 2 for 2, but it's only going to be one run that counts as we're looking at that 360 tail up into a bar spin, feet right on the pedals. So you can see him putting some pedals, though, once he lands, getting those rotations around with the cranks. Judges tend to want to see a rider coast and not pedal like we saw Brandon Lupos do in Hiroshima. But if they're going to need that acceleration to go for a bigger gap or put a little extra height on like Bryce did, that's usually not negatively impacted at all. So Bryce's first score was a 7.6.6. His second, we're going to see where he goes as it winds up coming in. 1, 2, 3, boom, a 7.6.6. So he's staying 4 points away from the 80s, and it looks like Sandoval's still going to stand strong with an 85.2.
So as you just mentioned, sitting in first place there with an 85.2, Daniel Sandoval. He's going to take the floor for the second time today. Daniel Sandoval dropping in right now. Big 270, or pardon me, 450 off of that hip jump.
Sandoval definitely going to turn up the heat run number 2, 360 double whip.
Yeah, the birthday boy, downside 360 tail whip. Whoa!
That was a big one.
Sandoval looking to go upside down, sideways and around. A little bit of a tongue twister. Try doing that on your bike. Sandoval not able to pull it off smoothly enough to roll out. Did hit both tires down and slid out. But Sandoval definitely put down a big score in his first run, which we said was an 85.2. And we talk about this being a semi-final. That means that to move on to the final, you have to have one of the top 12 scores. Hopefully Daniels will be just that. So look at Sandoval right there trying to put that extra rotation at the end, and you see just washing out to the side, sliding off the handlebars right there as it just dumps down, and Sandoval slides out safely. So yeah, 33.80. His score is going to remain the highest of the day with an 85.2. As we are working our way through our first semifinal heat, number 1 of 6, 24 riders. Doesn't matter if you are number 4 as with Mark Webb, or if you are going to be our last rider to take the course, which is our number 1 qualifier of Justin Dowell. You are competing against each other, and the top 12 scores will progress. So right now, always a favorite at FWS in Montpellier. Very psyched to see him on our world tour right now in Edmonton. Looking to dig deep and channel all of his energy, maybe bypassing any injury he might have had. This is the total BMX rider of Mark Webb.
He gets that 360 out of the gate, yeah. Holding back, that's for sure. This is not the run that he wanted, but still putting a run through. As we saw, he had a huge crash, 720 bar spin in his first run. Coming back there with that knack going for, yeah, 720 tuck no-hander.
That was a picture-perfect silhouette right there. Front end down, back end up, yes! Wow, Mark Webb making up for lost time in his first run. If he could keep this going, it definitely looks thus far like it has potential to be a qualifying run. Oof. Wow.
Whoa.
Oh!
just blowing the tire.
If you heard a cannon, no, that was not a salute from the crowd, but that was Mark Webb's back tire, full blowout. You could just see the rubber flapping on the rim right there. I believe Mark, it's a little hard to see from our house, but I think he threw down a trick with the flat tire, showing you that he's got that bike control. So Mark Webb is going to wrap up our first heat of riders. That means our next 4 are going to take the course to warm things up as we look at the highlights here.
Everything about that was so impressive.
So Webb, the total rider, tuck no-hander, 720. You could just see again that picture-perfect silhouette on that 720, front flip around. Let's see if we can watch that back tire. Boom! Slight delay in landing. It just shows how slow mode that actually is, because when you watch it in real life, real time, it's an instant blowout. So Webb right here, 7.3.20. That's got to be a little bit disappointing. Obviously, it doesn't mean he is down and out or not qualifying. Generally speaking, scores are in the 80s that wind up making it into the final 24 of the world's best. He's got to bite the nails if we still have, excuse me, actually we have 23 today. So it's got to be biting his nails. We have 19 more riders to take the course. So let's look at some highlights of heat number 1.
Let's get going there. You saw that beautiful Superman triple tail whip right there from Daniel Sandoval, who's sitting in first place right now. Such height on that flare as well. Some amazing riding from Istaf, who unfortunately is sitting at the bottom.
Yeah, big Bryce Tryon. I was very impressed with his riding. There's the height I was talking about where he came so close to the edge. That was not a mistake. That was for him to set up to wind up getting all that speed pushing down the landing. One thing I want to note, you might even hear it a little bit in our microphone, the wind is just howling across the rolling hills here in Edmonton. It's impacting us up here where we're losing umbrellas. Our rider sheets are blowing away. I could only imagine if you're out on the course. I mean, take a look at the scores, take a look at the flags as we are taking a look at our semifinal heat number 2, Kenneth, Tensio, Brian Fox, and Jake Leva. But you could just see the flags as them being a really good gauge of how strong the wind is out here. We talk about if it's a consistent wind, a rider can wind up counterbalancing. You could predict that. Similar to if a ramp's maybe steep, you give it a little more juice to push through it. If there's a big headwind, you can push a little harder. But when it's inconsistent, you try to give it that extra thrust, that extra power to counterbalance, and then it stops, it can be really dangerous. So our next rider looking to roll in is our Costa Rican rider, Kenneth Tensio. Tensio last year finished in 2017 in 19th. Currently, Tensio is sitting in 8th as we have 2 stops down, so that is a very big improvement going up. But Tensio right now waiting for the wind, waiting for his opening to create some magic out here.
Tensio, a man who always has some interesting drop-ins as we get into the courses. You've been watching the FWS World Series. You know maybe what is rolling through his mind, and here it comes. Kenneth Tensio, huge backflip drop-in.
What a cool perspective we had. Yes, 360 downside tail whip, kicking it both directions. Such a cool perspective up here, seeing that backflip drop in, just putting his head over his shoulder. Yes!
Massive and perfectly executed 2 transition cork 720 into that huge Superman C-crab on the quarter pipe air.
Tensio charging opposite double tire ride on the sub box. Yo, transfer floating backwards with the tail whip and a spin rotation right there. Let's see Tensio digging deep for that 360 bar spin, landing a little low, but able to set up for the flare. The Red Bull rider getting his speed flowing. Pushing through a 360. The clock is going tick-tock, tick-tock. Tensio X up, crisscross, let's go, dig deep. Ooh.
Yes.
Smith stall on the wall. Give a shout out to the late, great Paul Buchanan. Paul, a fellow Canadian, first rider ever to a Smith stall like that on a subwall back in an old T1 commercial. Unfortunately, Paul is not with us. Feeling a big hole in the BMX community from Paul, but it's nice right there to see Tensio do that stall, paying a little homage to Paul Buchanan. So Tensio spinning around right there. Look at the transfer floating backwards. So cool off that steep transition. And there is that Smith stall up on the wall. Wow. So Kenneth right there, big backflip drop in, had that Smith Tech stall on the wall at the end of his run. And in between those 60 seconds, it was action-packed.
Tensio waiting for that score to come in. Here is the score reveal, and it's going to be the top one, 88.20. You have a new leader. Kenneth Tensio is on top of the box.
It's got to be a great feeling for the Costa Rican. You travel all the way here to Canada. You want to put down a good run and a good score, and that is what Tensio did. All right, the big boy from Florida. You hear the crowd cheering because he knows how to rev up an audience. We saw Montpellier in the spine. Brian not only had the moves on the course, but on the flat bottom dance moves I'm talking about. Right now, he's waiting for his opening, his chance to dance from the wind. You see him shrug his shoulders and say, all right, now might be as good time as any. Stand a little corrected. I don't know if he was waiting for the wind. Maybe he's waiting to get the right song. Or maybe he's waiting for the crowd to get a little bit louder. So here we go, the big boy from Florida, Brian Fox. He is known, yes, for tricks as big as his personality. Yeah, Fox. Whoa!
Wow, big amplitude on that backflip tail whip.
Digging that 3 right there. You saw he threw his handlebars up. I don't think he was necessarily going for a trick, but maybe to compensate for that wind. Yeah, Fox.
You got 35 seconds. I'm not letting you stop, Brian. You got to get in there. All right.
So it looks like Fox right there is going to wind up stopping it. A little bit surprising considering he was off to a great start. Might be just that he's trying to get his head in the right head space, or it could have been also that wind out there. We're actually hearing directly from Fox right now.
So Brian Fox putting a little pressure on himself. He's going to send it to run number 2.
I was just asking Brian Fox what he was up to there, and he's like, I didn't want to take it. I wanted to do a cork 7 on that transfer. So I'm not taking it if it's just a 3. Okay.
Well, that shows you, that shows you the mindset. I talked about Ryan being a big boy on the bike with the big tricks, and he's not going to settle anything but yet for a big score. So much of the riding, you want to take that mental and make it physical, and you've got to be so focused to do it. Picture a world-class heavyweight fighter going to swing a haymaker not only once, but for that whole 60 seconds, trying to connect each hit. And Fox looking for a big one with that 720 transfer. We're not calling him out. Those were his words that he wanted to do. So he's going to have another opportunity as right now. Yes! Jake Levia going for a 360 bar, dropping it off.
And then into that huge 360, hard 360, let's say, double tail whip into a backflip drop in from quarter level.
Yeah, Jake, the hyper rider, wall ride, doing it over the box jump. Yes, there was the helicopter. Backflip, double tail whip, then kicking that downside tail whip. Whoa!
Wow, so many tail whips actually in different combinations, double whip combinations. I think that was every one that I knew of. And then into a triple whip over the camel hump there. Jake Leva really going for gold here.
Yeah, Jake unfortunately going down, but prior to that, definitely going up and big. 360 with the bar spin, bunny hop in. There's no takeoff, setting right up for that transfer with the tail whips. And that rotation around. There you go over the box jump, the backflip, double tail whip. So much going on, utilizing the handlebars for the spin of the frame on that tail whip as well. Double style, you see it minus the backflip. So Jake right there, having that crash, obviously going to definitely penalize his score. You can almost see out on the course there being some carnage. His back peg just digging deep into our Edge Sport landing ramp right there, showing you the velocity that he came down. So 45.80 will be Jake's score.
All right, Tensio, 60 seconds. He's your current leader. The course is yours, amigo. All right, here we go. Let's welcome him in at the big Costa Rica, Tensio.
Kenneth Tensio dropping in right here. Whoa, that was a one-handed 360 tail whip.
Bar down with, whoa, suicide 360. Roll bars 2 times in that doing.
Transfer right there from Tensio, and then into that flare alley-oop whip.
Right here. 30 seconds on the clock for Tensio.
Yo! Oh! Whoa! Talk about riding on the edge of your seat. Kenneth Tensio putting it all on the line. I thought he was going to walk the line, barely getting it together, and then just still rotating around, washing out, doing a quick little butt plant, thankfully, to his feet. And for Tensio, thankfully, getting that big, solid first score in of a 88.2, so that definitely will be his top score considering at that crash, but 360 one-handed tail whip. Oh, and there you see just landing flat right there, had that rotational speed going around, and then having some difficulty on the crash. So as we mentioned, 88.2 is going to be the score that sticks. And that is a good one to put right at the top of the board. As we are looking at Brian Fox, we mentioned he wound up stopping his run halfway through, saying, I wanted to turn it up. I wanted to give the people what they want. Most importantly, he wanted to do what he wanted. The big rider from Florida, Brian Fox, said he wanted a 720 on that channel. Looks like the elements are picking up a little bit as the crowd's energy is starting to pick up, cheering on Brian Fox.
A man who can really get the crowd behind him. He knows exactly where to push the buttons. He's really a crowd pleaser, and a man who's dedicated to the sport of BMX and all his fellow competitors, really just doing it and loving it. You can see every single contest he comes out here, he's having such a time. Starting off with that backflip over that low speed jump.
So Fox, we saw, pulled off on his first run. It's quite a gamble, backflip tail whip. And it's paying off so far with that 720. Fox is saying, I'm going to put more of my chips into the center of the table.
Then into an alley-oop flare on the honor quarter pipe. 360 downside tail up into a flare bar spin.
So this is right where he stopped. Let's see what he's going to do for us. Backflip transfer. So the pressure is on for Fox. He must like to deliver when it counts because he's doing it right now with 23 seconds to go.
That was a flare whip on the honor quarter pipe. Coming back into the box jump. Brian Fox.
15 seconds on that clock.
Nice backflip right there. Maybe was going for the tuck no-hander. Slowing down a tiny bit. Suicide no-hander on the step up. 10 seconds left right now for Fox. Has time for one more trick. And a flare. Finishing it off. Got that cork 720 on that big transfer. We're going to have to wait and see what the judges think of that one.
Well, this is the moment. Brian Fox had a good hand if he was sitting there at the poker table. Wound up putting all of his chips into the middle with that 720 going around on his second run. And right now, he's just got to wait and say, what does the dealer have for me? He put it all on the line. The score to beat is an 85.2, excuse me, an 88.2 by Kenneth Tensio. We're taking our top 12 riders. 7 have taken the course so far. Brian Fox We're going to see. This is that moment. How do you feel in Vegas, right? You're sitting there, you're waiting patiently, maybe having a drink or two. Fox right now. Yes, 83.40. So he's going to sit in third. That's impressive right there. It's not in the 90s, but you know what? You can still do it with that score.
And this is still the semi-finals. You do not have to throw all your cards on the table yet. This is not all coin out in the open.
So hopefully for Fox, that was his poker face, and we're going to see him be able to do some more tricks in there. So yeah, there we go. 360 double transfer. Jake up on top. Oh yeah, backflip coming in. 360 tail whip to bar spin. You see, winds up having his left hand just kind of get right back to the grip. Talk about really making it work. Backflip double tail whip. Look back. Yo, there you go. That's the triple tail whip he was looking for in the first quarter, the first thing.
Leva. Tuck no head 360 into the 540 right there.
He's going to call it some love, full pull for the American Jake Leva. All right. Next 4 riders on course.
Yeah, there we go. Jake with that big transfer, the backflip in the middle of the run. You're taking a different direction than Kenneth Tensio. So Jake right here, triple tail whip across the driveway. You can see his actual peg mark on the ground from the first run where he wound up falling, but in the second run, getting it clean the way that he wanted. You can see Tensio right in the middle of the screen rocking the Red Bull helmet. That is our current leader, but Jake right there, solid run right in front of Tensio as a 92.60. You can see that rider camaraderie. They're both giving each other props. That's because with 2 high scores like that, the odds that you're going to make it into the final being a top 12 are very high. Traditionally speaking, in the Feast World Series, if you are in the 90s or the upper 80s, you are going to wind up being in there.
When it comes to BMX Freestyle Park.
So Jake Leva on the top of the scoreboard, the 92.60, 88.2, Sandoval 85.2, Fox 83.4, Bryce Tryon, Mark Webb, and our Frenchman Calais down there with the 70.80. So 7 riders have taken the course. We have 23 total, but let's look at the highlights as Tensio does that backflip drop in, corked out 720, totally off axis, also on that rotation for the 360 with the tail whip, and then paying a little homage there to the late great Paul Buchanan with that Smith stall on the wall ride. Looking at your new leader, Jake Leva, that was a 360 bar spin. As we said, there was no takeoff. That was all bunny hop with the spin around. If you wind up doing a truck driver drop in like that off a bunny hop, it's much more increased and more difficult to do. There you see throwing the hands out there with that suicide double bar spin at 360. Tensio at the 360 double tail whip going around and then just washing out. Thankfully doing a quick little butt plant. No big deal for Tensio. We're looking at a few more highlights right here. There's the backflip drop in. This was run number 2 from Jake, which was equivalent to his high score. You're looking at a 92.6. These are the elements linked together that will give you the high score from Jake. So we are looking at our start list for heat number 3. We actually saw Jake Leva ride, even though his name is up there, but we got Joel Bondu, Alex Nicolin, and Pat Casey who are going to be on the course. So I know for sure Bondu, Nicolin, Casey.
Yeah, I see that all those 3 riders on course, so I do not think we're going to have a 4th rider joining them right now.
Well, John Bondu, if you hear everyone cheering, that's because he is a Canadian. He's also going to be doing double duty today. He's going to be riding in our flatland competition, which you could go on to feastworldseries.com and check out all the hours and information. If you're not there already, pull up the tab, take a look, and see where Joel is going to be. Joel is a fitness fanatic along with his girlfriend. Joel is also known to ride in Cirque du Soleil, where he consistently puts on shows and demos. And if you're going to ride a lot of shows, that means you're going to have consistency.
Joel Bondu.
Here we go. The Canadian coming in clean. 360 tail up to bar spin. Nice and crispy.
Beautiful bar spin to tuck no hander. Great style. And wow, look at that huge transfer from the Hurricane quarter pipe to the Honor quarter. Haven't seen that yet in contest. Beautiful foot jam on, wow, 360 windshield wiper. That's a tail whip to tail it back the opposite way into a double tail whip to bar spin. Quick tuck no hander.
Yeah, Joel putting on a demo right here with the consistency of a show rider. Tail whip over the spine. Come on, Joel, no-hander.
That was an opposite tail whip on the spine, might I add, making it even more difficult for the judges.
Yes, off-axis flip into a flare with an invert. That was a backflip 180 tabletop. Joel bar spin over extended spine, coping to coping, transition to transition. Unfortunately, Joel going down at the end of his run. If this were 2016 or even 15, we'd say that would not be a big deal by any means. But since we're going to the Olympics in 2020, we've seen the standards just be raised, the bar increased, and if a rider goes down even in the last seconds of their run, it definitely can rip down that score very quickly.
Nice unlook back right there. Some beautiful riding from the Canadian. Gonna have to wait and see where his score is gonna line up against the others.
So Joel 61.40. Unfortunately for Joel, one little crash out here in that 60 seconds can just impact a rider very, very large. So you can see our Russian contingent up there, Alex Nikolin being cheered on. You're getting that back rub, getting in the shoulders and getting the mind. That's Irik Ryzev, the poster boy, all over Edmonton. Huge posters doing a turn down for our Feast World Series, cheering on his fellow brethren as we got Nikolin coming in.
These Russians are animals, starting off with the cash roll. Alley-oop, downside tail up and pushing back to the step up. 360 double bar spin into a flare whip from Nikolin.
Nikolin, one of my favorite riders to watch on the tour because he's got the style. Pegless, brakeless, and can rip around the park front flip. But it's almost as if he just does these tricks and saying, you know what, I want to compete and I want to get in here. But he's got the ability. You could even just see that little tabletop, throw it in the mix. It all looks good, especially that big transfer going 12 feet across the channel with the flare.
Just saying, I talked about Bondu doing that channel, making it look easy, and he just did the flare over the channel, making it even look easier.
Yeah, want to take that moment to acknowledge another late great rider. I'm talking about Colin Winkleman, the first rider to do a flare across the channel. First time he did it was at the UGP Roots contest in Florida, and then later at the East Coast Terminal FBM comp. But we saw with ease going across the channel, Alex Nikolin. So the Russian packing a big punch as he goes cash roll first jump. Talk about gambling, trying to pay off big out here. That used to be the last run trick. Final thought, but if you're starting out big, doing it that smooth and consistent, that means you got the trick on lock, and Nikolin is displaying that.
Look at some beautiful slow motion highlights from Nikolin's run. You guys want to check out any other slow motion content, make sure you guys check out the Worm app, and as well, make it over to the FWS Instagram page, that's at FWS World, or the Facebook page, FWS.official. Check those pages out, like them, and make sure you stay involved with all the action for the rest of the FWS World Series.
So the next rider who's going to be up is our number 9 finisher for 2017, Pat Casey. Casey currently sitting in 16th this year. He did have a big finish in our Montpellier Spine event. Unfortunately, we did not get to do a final, but his semifinal score was in first, so that's why he wound up rolling away with that first. Well-deserved, because if you're riding even in a semi or any qualifier, you even make it to this level of competition, you're already in the top small percentage of riders in the world. So right now, the Mongoose rider, Pat Casey, looking to roll on in, being cheered on by his family. Yes, big backflip transfer.
Whoa, look at the height coming out of that Hurricane Parks quarter pipe. 180 tail whip to Fakey, utilizing that free coaster. Tuck no hander back down the opposite way of the step up, making it a step down.
Yeah, Pat Casey, that free coaster enables a rider to coast backwards without pedaling. Their cranks do not engage. Technology in the last few years has gotten a lot better, and that's why we're seeing some riders bring them to ramp and park.
Wow, tweaked out cash roll right there.
Let's see where Casey's going to go. These are always the crucial moments. This is what's going to separate every rider in the competition here.
Yeah, love seeing tricks like that. The 360 to Fakey put into a park run. Flare in an alley-oop way on the kicker of the box jump.
Pat throwing down a tail whip aerial on the quarter pipe. So getting a few little toppings in there. You can see Dennis Anderson giving a pound just around the corner of that sub box. There's a look at Dennis Anderson, who has yet to ride. I know everyone at home can't wait to see Dennis, Ryan and myself included, but there was Pat's first start, backflip transfer. You see I had to put a 90-degree spin on it. There's a bar spin right into the tail whip. Casey here with that cash roll. Digging the way he just twists the handlebars, gets a little bit sideways. The 180 tail whip, there's the free coaster backwards, right up and over, back wheel popping the coping. Casey coming down very clean and smooth. So it looks like you can see up next in this heat will be Alex Colborn. So we had a little bit of names going every which way, but Casey is going up with an 82.60. So he's going to currently sit in 6th place. But you still see Jake Leva, the only rider at the 92.6 in top. As we are starting to see a full picture here as we wind up checking through the list of riders. Well, our next rider from the UK, he is known as the Bulldog. He finished 3rd overall in 2017, currently sitting 5th overall. This is Alex Colborn.
Starting off, barrel roll bar spin.
Colborn,
Great combo, bar spin, tuck no hander at height.
360, I believe, double bar.
Colborn and consistency goes hand in hand, double peg up on the sub box. First rider we see utilize that 3-tier cake,
Yes!
as I'm going to call it, the elevated section of the course.
And that was a great 720 bar spin.
So one of Colborn's specialty, lip tricks, where you can get so technical. No-handed 360 on the step down. So when a lot of riders wind up getting winded and tired, they might throw it below coping flare, where Colborn sometimes will just turn it up and get so technical, utilizing his front and back wheel. Butt slide right there. Didn't have enough gas in the tank to get around for that front flip. Thankfully was able to wind up just doing a butt plant and roll away, or I should say walk away and then roll. But definitely put that butt plant in the meantime of those things. So Colborn right here, bar spin to tuck, no-hander, fishtailing that back end out for style points.
Sometimes people outside of the BMX world might see this on TV and think these guys are battling each other more than battling themselves. They're all really good friends. They want each other to ride to the potential.
So Colborn, big run. Those were the highlights. As we take a look, you can actually see the Flatland course right now. That is one of my favorite Flatlanders in the world out there. Talking about the New Orleans boy riding it up. You know him as Terry Adams, dad-to-be.
Coburn scoring coming in there with a low 57.
Ooh, that is brutal. The judges are showing no mercy if you wind up putting a foot down, if you wind up crashing, and if you don't get that full ride out of the 60 seconds. But our Canadian, Joel Bondu, talked about double duty doing Flatland today. We're going to see him later on in our semifinal as Bondu blasts up over the extended spine and then the channel with the tuck no-hander. Bondu. Yes.
He has a great push as he comes into the transitions, but missing a bit of speed on some of these hits as he's coming up a little short maybe.
Yeah, hot hands, 1-2 for Bondu.
Double tail whip right there with height. Bondu coming up into the sub box. Foot jam. Tuck no hander, and it's winding down. Last tricks for Bondu. It's going to be one more if he can get it out of the tank.
Oh,
Vader nose manual.
Showing you a little bit of that front wheel boogie action, which we might see a little more of in our Flatland competition later. But right now, Joel having a little difficulty in his 2 runs out there. I know that Blake 201 is cheering him on, an internet and Instagram celebrity who Joel has a tendency to hang out with, who also rides BMX, saying, "Go, Joel, go," as we're looking at those flare tail whip, going around backflip 180 feet onto the pedals. Look at the tail whip coming around, grabbing it nice and high. So 61.4, that will be Joel's better run of 2, but not enough. Actually, it looks like Joel's second run score of 66.4 is what we're going to talk with, but still not enough to shake things up or move things around.
We are set to go with our next rider, right number 2 for the man from Krasnodar, Russia.
So our next rider currently sitting in 4th with an 84.6. Not looking to rest on any laurels, because when you still have a dozen of the world's best who have yet taken the course, and earlier today in our qualifier, they potentially rode it better than you in the eyes of the judges, getting a higher score. You need to be ready to pour it on. And right now, the Russian Alex Nikulin, cash roll.
He's got those on lock, that's for sure. Alley-oop tail whip. 360 double spar spin into a tabletop flare. Going for the transfer here with a nice hip flip.
Yeah, front flip over the driveway, and the wind is whipping up here. You can just see the flags. There is not a consistent breeze out in the crowd as our papers are going wild up here, but right there, taming the wind with that flare transfer. Nikulin's got 15 seconds, and he's got to count. But we saw the odds are stacked if a rider goes down, and he is not playing it safe. No-handed front flip. Oh!
Wow.
Oh, man.
Hard there.
That's got to hurt, not only physically, but also emotionally. You put down a big run, and literally right at the finish line, you wind up tripping across it.
It looked like he got thrown out of heaven, and then he said, "No, I'm going to push myself back."
That is very disheartening, that crash. But there's the cash roll. Nikulin getting a round of applause from the crowd right now as we're watching highlights, showing some respect. So here's a flare.
Is the crash. Oh, that was a hard one right to the bottom.
Much love to Alex. You can see right there, I don't know how he is smiling. It might be the adrenaline pumping through his body. The one thing we know, our riders are very tough, especially if you are from Russia. So 84.60 is going to be the score that's in there. You can see all the other riders. Daniel Sandoval saying, "You okay, man? That was a hard crash."
The course is
Pat Casey dropping in for his second attempt out here in semifinals. Big flare hip.
Casey.
Hip flip, let's say. Whoa, tongue twister.
Well, Casey looking to get untwisted on the course with that 180 double tail, slipping a pedal, but that was very minimal right there. He was able to keep his speed.
30 seconds down.
It's crazy to think that Pat Casey is such a veteran of the sport in his young 20s. Because he's no stranger to competition. I remember calling some of Pat's first contests when he was a mere teenager. Always ride to Iron Maiden. Right now he's looking to channel Eddie, but unfortunately going down. Just taking a look out in the crowd, you see some of our female riders cheering on. Pat Casey looks like sitting down right there. Nikita Ducaro. See Nick Bruce right there in the gray t-shirt, black hat, bar spin, the tail whip. Casey, there we go, that cash roll. It's crazy in heat number 3, consistency with the cash rolls. Excuse me, heat number 3 is correct. Cash rolls out of Casey and Bondu. Excuse me, Casey and Nicolin. I'm losing my mind. It's as if I went through a cash roll, getting dizzy out there. But looks like Pat Casey again had that crash. His first score was impressive. We just had to guess that's going to be the score that sticks of the 82.6. So Casey's going to remain in 6th. Leva, Tensio, Sandoval, Nicolin, Fox, and Casey.
Alex Colborn.
The total rider looking to bring total destruction here in Edmonton as he goes over with that transfer 360 tail whip. Colborn bar spin to no-hander, firing back with the double bar spin over the camelback. Opting to go up on the sub.
Smooth double peg up there, didn't take too much away from his time. Like that he was able to get that lip trick and still keep the flow rolling into that box jump. 360 double tail whip, bar spin to foot jam.
Come on, Colborn. 360.
Whoa! Hitting it hard on that Explore Edmonton, very large spine. It's an unorthodox way of extending a spine. Very steep takeoff and landing, vertical basically, but extending the deck into the size of most box jumps. Your case on that one, you're going down very hard.
Super hard. But like I said before, BMX riders are the toughest riders, the toughest athletes on this earth. I know there's some hockey fans out there, but
such a hard crash. So happy that Colborn's able to get up. Really tough rider. Really tough rider.
On the way out of here, but I'm going to stand by my convictions. All right. Our next 4 riders on the course. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience.
All right, well, our next 4 riders are going to wind up taking out onto the course. They are going to wind up warming things up as we get ready to watch as we pass the halfway mark for riders. Get things going, but look at the leaderboard. Jake Leva setting that top spot, 92.60, Tensio 88.20, Sandoval 85.2, and you move down the list, Nicolin, Fox, Casey, Tryon, Webb, Calais, and Bondu. So we talked about there being the top 12 riders. That is going to be who is progressing along. We will see the full picture once every rider has a score. You are just joining us. We are taking a look at the highlights right here of heat number 3.
360 windshield wiper right there from Bondu. Alex Nicolin with that cash roll right out of the gate, perfecting it on both runs. Front flip as well on that long and low. little box jump. There's the 540 flare alley-oop version. Going into Pat Casey right there. Combinations galore. There's another version of his take on the cash roll with a nice little tweak in it. There's a tail whip 180 to fakie, utilizing the free coaster. Very unique way of riding and executing the course from Pat Casey. And then the British Bulldog right there. Alex Colborne doing justice. Another take on one of Nicolin's cash rolls. Going back in, these are heat number 2s on screen right now. At the UCI BMX Freestyle Park. Oh, and that hard crash from Nicolin. Freestyle Park World Cup semifinals of the men out here in Edmonton, Canada. Louise McKinney Riverfront Park. This is where we are, coming at you live from the FIS World Series 2018. I want to thank the city of Edmonton, as well Explore Edmonton, and the province of Alberta for welcoming us in Canada. The FIS World Series, one of the largest action sports festivals in the world, bringing together all action sports disciplines into one happy family and showcasing it on a world tour. 5-stop world tour we have this year, started in Hiroshima, Japan, moving forward to Montpellier, France. At our 3rd stop of the tour, we are here right now live in Edmonton, Canada. Make sure you guys stay tuned for all the action following the tour around the world as it goes. We're going to be finishing off in Chengdu, China.
Well, if you saw those 4 names on the list, you are excited because this is international. Great Britain, Russia, USA, and Australia. But right now, Great Britain rolling in. James Jones. Yeah, a lot of height on that. The bar spin with no-hander, setting up for that 360 double whip. Foot comes off, but if that's going to happen, you want to keep it going fast, and that's what James Jones is able to do backwards over the box jump right there. Wow, very impressive. All of our riders know if you hit a box jump backwards, it's a steeper landing because you're coming in on the takeoff. I got to tell you, Ryan, I'm really impressed with James Jones riding.
Some huge combinations right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Disaster to bar spin back in. Bar spin in on that little hit as well, getting a lot of different tricks in that we have not yet seen from other riders, dissecting the course very well. 360 tuck no-hander over the Explore Edmonton spine, coming back for some more lip tricks with that foot jam. Tail whip downside, and that's going to finish it off.
Wow, so James Jones full run right there, a name that we're not too familiar with on the FIS World Series, but definitely one you got to get familiar with after that first run. Let's look at that bar spin coming in. There was that 360 double tail whip coming around, foot went down, but the decade over the box backwards. So crazy because it's a step up, so if you're hitting it backwards, it's a step down. That means that the landing is totally blind. James Jones, full run right there. Did have the foot come down in the middle. We talked about it being very much a game of perfection out here, with the judges score to beat 92.60. Will it be enough? So the Tehachapi, California rider Jake Leva still sitting in that top spot, as Great Britain all the way on the other side of the Atlantic waiting for his score.
Honor and sports teams to Edmonton. Most importantly, thank you to all the locals here.
Taking a look at our flags out there, you can see the consistency is the #1 highlight as our weather stats.
40 km/h winds. That's what my eyes are going to write on that one. Yes, it's 21 degrees Celsius. It's beautiful sun. But man, the wind is the factor for all two-wheel discipline sports, especially here in Freestyle BMX Park when you are flying 5 meters above the ground level in most cases. The wind really takes you by the bottom of your feet and sweeps you around in directions you do not want to go.
Well, an 82 is not too shabby at all. So it looks like he's going to be the last score in the 80s. James Jones with a 82 sitting in 7th. But another Russian rider coming in, no stranger to danger and no stranger to the FIS World Series. We're talking about Kostya Andreev. In 2007, he finished 6th overall after the year. Currently, Kostya is sitting in 14th place as we approach our 3rd stop.
Whoa, Kostya coming out with one of the biggest errors on that box jump that I've seen today. Whoa. Oh, that could have been very, very dangerous. I think he was going for cannonball bar spin.
It's always frustrating when a rider goes down. You know they're trying to bring their best stuff. But we talked about it being a best run format. There you go. It can be very frustrating when a rider winds up crashing and going down. All right, well, making up for a little bit of lost time. But again, we talked about the scores being something that matter.
Very affected on this judging panel from any bobble in the run, especially if you have a full crash like that. So hopefully it's not going to affect him too much. Wow, beautiful Kostya technical abilities. This man who's been able to come out and dominate the mini ramp contest as well in Montpellier, and you see that there. The tail whip, foot jam whip.
So that was maybe a little bit of a preview of what we're going to see in his second run, because he did have that mess up in there, but 360 tail whip to tuck no-hander. Here's a look at that downside 360 tail whip to bar spin somehow. And look how technical that is. Tail whip around, foot in the front tire, and then a second tail whip, and then you're seeing the different variation with a bar spin coming around. So as scores come up on the screen, what everyone has been waiting for, every rider, every fan, Brian, myself, and I know everyone at home, Dennis Anderson. All of our riders know, but if you're new to BMX, Dennis, some might say, and I would back this statement, one of the most talented and skilled riders currently on planet Earth on a BMX bike. If someone wants to challenge that statement, send me a message at Daryl Now on Instagram. I'd like to hear your story for that explanation. Dennis in 2016 was an X Games gold medalist, and this is our first time we're seeing him at the FIS World Series.
Ooh, little Nyquist inspired trick right there, 360 double suicide bar spin.
So Dennis from Southern California, backflip tail whip.
Can catch him sometimes at the Claremont Skate Park in San Diego.
Yeah. Woo. Floating that right there. Now, Dennis, known for some of his insane BMX riding parts in video. Here we go.
Yes, Dennis Anderson whipping out some stuff we have not seen any other rider do. That was a huge transfer from the step up, lip right into the pocket, going with some massive combinations, coming back into the box jump. Dennis Anderson, this is the riding we are looking for.
Yes, Anderson not only lighting up our course here in Edmonton, but also lighting up our crowd. Let's see if he's got to keep it going. Bar spin to disaster. Looking for a final cherry. Yo! Oh.
Going for the nose bonk to tail whip, just holding on to that one at the end, but some of the biggest highlights we've seen so far in this contest.
Wow, Ryan, this is going to be interesting because Anderson had some of the biggest transfers, biggest tricks, and unique style, but his foot went down on that nose manual to tail whip. Let's look at that 360 double bar spin, throwing the hands out suicide style for some extra points and flavor. As Anderson right here floating that one-hand, one-footed tabletop. You see the city of Edmonton in the background. And there you got that tail whip transfer coming up, setting up in the pocket for that wall ride. And here's the 360 out to fakie. And let's look at that nollie press to tail whip.
I tell you, if that little foot down was the demise of this run being on top, I quit.
Boom!
Oh, second place, 89-80. It may have very well been.
Yeah, you and I are not the judges. We don't make the calls, but it's it's very safe to say if that foot didn't go down right there, it could have potentially changed some stuff out there. Now, this is the semifinal. Top 12 scores do move you to the final, but we've seen since we're outside with Mother Nature, like we had in Montpellier in the spine event, if it does rain or something happens and we can't do tomorrow, the semifinal can sometimes wind up counting. So we're keeping our heat international. Our next rider, the Australian Jake Woolwork from Oz, taken to Edmonton.
Double tail whip out of the gate. Flare, front flip flare, tuck no hander, 360 bar spin over the camel hump. Yes, flare whip out of that tail whip. Backwards on the spine. Big front flip tuck no hander as the wind picks up heavy out here on course. 360 downside tail whip. Coming back into the Edmonton box jump. Big front flip bar spin, but not getting the rotation on that one and looping out.
Woolwork's got 10 seconds to work with here. No-hander. Taking that whip around, not getting the distance. Ooh. Trying to get that rotation. So Woolwork having a little bit of technical difficulties in heat number 4 of 6. So look at the transfer, double time around, going all the way to our Explore Edmonton box, setting up perfectly for that no-handed front foot flare. And here's a look, hands coming off, I believe double time right there. There's the bar spin front flip, and not able to get the weight fully committed around. So difficult because when you throw the bars, you got to counterbalance your weight. You can't go over fully or the bars will hit your legs, and Woolwork not able to readjust and get that rotation. So unfortunately a 45.40 as we're going to go back to the top of heat number 4 for James Jones. So Joel Bondu currently sitting on the bubble. 66.40 is the score to beat. So impressed with James Jones' first run. He unfortunately had that little debacle go down as well at the end, 82, so he's got a lot of room to move up. But let's see, it's all about putting it together when it counts. You got a lot of pressure. You traveled halfway around the planet to put it on for these 60 seconds times 2. You got 2 minutes to make it go. Yeah. Bunny hop tail whip coming in. 360 with the bars into a foot jam, coming out with the bars as well. James Jones.
Backwards on the box jump, 360 bar spin to tuck no hander. And then coming the regular way, backflip, bar spin to tuck. 360 downside tail whip. Disaster to tail it back in.
Such an impressive trick. You got to have a lot of upper body strength to pull that off.
Huge flare bar.
Dead stop, and you got to get that pop and hop. Let's see, nose up. Up. Yeah, tail whip with the foot jam. Double time. And that is Buzzerville. Yeah, James. Looking at that tail whip bunny hop coming right in. That is a very large ramp to do that in. Snowplow coming down. Disaster to tail whip. So impressive. You got to find your body positioning. Make sure that you hit both wheels evenly on both parts of the ramp, the face and the deck, to get that hop and pop. Using your upper body and your headset to get the frame to come around. If there was a little bit of a pause, it's for good reason, because the moment you disaster, you go, do I have it? Do I have it? And then you got to hop and pull it around. So James Jones right there putting it down. As you can see, on one direction, you've got the city of Edmonton, and right in the other direction behind the course, you've got the rolling hills of Edmonton. One of the coolest cities I've ever been to, where you're combining nature with an urban environment. There we go, taking a look the other way. We are nestled in downtown Edmonton. It's so cool because you basically have forests, rolling rivers, hills, everything that you could want mixed in with the metropolis area. So cool. And one thing I want to highlight, so clean. It's very nice and refreshing to be in a big major city, and it's a beautiful place. Literally, you want to jump in the river that's flowing through a city. And most major places, you'd never want to say that at all. But James Jones, his second score is going to be an 84.2, so that means it's going to be a higher one, going up a couple points, going into 6th. Hopefully that will be enough to hold off the other riders, the packs of wolves who are going to be trying for the higher scores to move up. And one of them being Kostya Andreev.
Kostya Andreev, the Russian, going for his second run. If he is able to pull it together, he's pushing for the top spot from the Russians out here in Edmonton.
Yes.
Perfect extension on that no hitter, having 3 wins.
Yes, smooth. Look at it. There's no handers, just a great style.
Oh! Kostya going for cannonball, believe tail whip.
That's frustrating for Kostya, I know. Got to be travel all the way around the other side of the world. This is the points race, as we said. Kostya last year finished in 6th, currently sitting in 14th.
So not super characteristic to see Kostya down on the box right now, sitting in 13th place, just out of bubble contention for the finals, which is going to be tomorrow, 61 even. We take a couple highlight looks at his run out here. There was that 360 bar spin, tuck no hander, going for that Superman tail whip.
So yeah, Kostya sitting in that 13th spot. 39.4, his first run of a 61 is going to be the big score. But the big man currently sitting in 2nd, Southern California. He did not disappoint in his first run. Let's see how he plays it. He might just say, you know what, I'm going to just have a good time out here, knowing that he's got a high score that will bring him into the finals.
Yeah, pendulum. Dennis Anderson, man, I've looked up to this guy for so many years. It's so cool to see him out here at a FWS World Series stop.
So this is what we're talking about. Dennis right now just having a good time out on the course, knowing that he put down a good run, saying, hey, you know what, I'll save it for tomorrow, waving it off to the crowd right there. Definitely a good move to play. You know, also a little bit of a gamble too. Like we said, we've seen where the weather sometimes, but the forecast is calling for clear skies today into tomorrow. So it's definitely something important. Although, Ryan, we have seen the wind pick up as weekends have wound up progressing through the days. Hopefully that's not the case. We get a full final in tomorrow. But either way, sitting in 2nd is a good spot for Anderson currently.
I think that's a good way to look at it as well. Throwing out some old school dirt tricks right there. Pendulum, do you know where that trick was invented from?
Well, I'll tell you, as far as no-foot can-cans going both ways, to make popular, Doyle. I'm going to say Chris Bennett.
Okay.
Chris Bennett rode at Push Trails. He was an influence to Chris Doyle. Doyle, if you're watching, what up? I know you'll say the same. Props number 7, I believe, the same one as the, no, it's props 8, Long Island Scene Report. Bennett was on the cover doing a no-foot one-hander, and there was a push section, but over racetrack, and I know Isaac Groundchuck is watching, definitely threw down some pendulums, but throw the no-footer in first. And then you got Chris Bennett, also a rider who has a signature Superman. So there we go, a little bit of history right there. East Coast BMX Trails, what up, represent. Bennett, you're the man. Square One is back. Take a look for Square One clothing. But right now, take a look at the course for Jake Woolwork charging.
Whoa, triple tail transfer from the Explore Edmonton quarter to the landing of the box jump. 360 bar spin over the camel hump.
Right now, Woolwork is locked in. You could just tell he is laser focused to make it happen. No-handed front flip, this time getting around. Yes. Wall work, looking to just keep it poured on as the clock is ticking through. The sand just marching through the hourglass as wall work comes in. 360 tail whip, come on, wall work.
Yeah, and that 900 going for it. Sounded like he had a crank snap there or something.
Yeah.
Hard impact on the very bottom of that.
Always disappointing when you see riders out here pushing through, trying to make magic happen. All of our riders to even make it through a qualifier to a semi is such an impressive feat.
And then there was one heat. I do believe one heat left, or is there two
I'm
heats
actually going to say, and then there were 2 heats, I think, unless we're going to wind up doing this a little bit differently.
Yeah, there's gonna be 2 heats, isn't there? No.
There should be, although when we saw the rider list initially on screen, it said 23 riders, but I do have to tell you, we didn't see his name in the heat where we had 3 riders, which I believe was heat number 2, Eric Reizev, and I did see him out on the course, so I'm not sure if he is going to be competing or not, but who I can tell you we see on course right now practicing.
Daniel
As
Dares.
we take a look at our scoreboard, Jake holding high with the 92, Anderson 89.80, Tensio 88.20, Sandoval, Nicolin, Jones, Fox, Casey. But the real story develops as we look here for Tryon, Webb, Calais, Bondu, and unfortunately Andreev is going to be on the outside, followed by Colborn and Walwork. And when I say on the outside, number 12, where Bondu is sitting with a 66.40, that is the mark to beat. That is where you are sitting saying, I hope that no other rider has a score. And as you wind up going up the numbers, you're saying, all right, I can maybe be in, I maybe might not be. But when you still have 8 of the world's best who have yet to take the course, you are stressing. Ooh, Anderson right there, 1 hand, 1 foot tabletop. There was that tail whip transfer. We haven't seen any other rider mess around at all with that transfer, let alone throw the tail whip, and let alone set up smoothly enough to cut the pocket and hit that wall ride up on top of the sub box.
I mean, I just love watching that type of riding.
Yeah, and the reason we're talking about Dennis so much, it's so cool seeing him out here. We're not necessarily playing favoritism. It's just exciting seeing him. Anderson is known as a video rider, even though, because he's put out so many memorable parts, from his first Nike part to his own company, Market. He had a video that just unreal, ripping and representing his own local town, riding through his street, called Resident. It's really cool. Just type in Dennis Anderson, give him a follow on Instagram. You can see these videos that we're talking about. But Dennis has been no stranger to the contest series. And the thing is, he won X Games Gold in 2016 in Park. But the thing that separates Dennis from some of the other riders, as the clock goes or the course is out there, Dennis maybe won't throw a below coping flare or something that you know that he can do, but play it quote unquote safe. Dennis goes out there high energy, beginning to end, with big transfers, with big tricks. But if he's not feeling it, he might wind up waving it off rather than say, you know what, I'm going to milk this thing and I'm going to do a bunch of tricks that maybe he feels might not look as visually appealing, and do tricks that, yeah, you know what, I'm going to kind of milk this. So big ups to Dennis. Really nice seeing him here, and the fact that he is first time being here at the Feast World Series. We love having you. All right, well, our next rider, he is our 2017 defending champion, Daniel Dares from Venezuela. He was on the top of the board. Currently, he is sitting in second place as we have 2 stops down, and number 3 looking to turn it up a few notches and get on that ladder back to the top where he's known.
That was a big transfer for that 360 double tail whip.
Dares living in North Carolina. He's got his own skate park down there. 360 no-foot can-can to tail whip.
That's the signature from Daniel Dares. He definitely invented that one, and I have not seen anyone else do that since.
That 720 was corked out. It was almost borderline cash roll right there. He's almost starting to hybrid those 2 tricks together. 360 double tail whip. Let's see, for Dare is definitely known to pick the course apart, and we haven't seen any other rider transfer to the Camelback.
Yeah, that is true. That is a very unique transfer, and then coming back the opposite way on the Camelback.
That's something that Daniel is known for, is almost his scientifical, strategic approach to the course, trying to say, hey, you know what are people using? What are they not using? Which ways can I go in direction, so that the judges say, hey, I haven't left any line off the course. If you were to look at a bird's eye view of his runs, generally they'd have more zigs and zags than any other rider out there, and Daniel putting down a big first run. So Daniel transfer with that 360 double tail whip, floating backwards, finding the pedals. There's that corked out 720. 360 double tail whip on the step up.
They're so incredibly consistent.
If there's a major contest, Daniel has been on top of the podium. First place, rocking the gold, rocking the cups, and looking to do the same in 2018 as he did in 17, specifically as we roll towards the Olympics. Daniel, a very competitive rider, a very competitive person, and wants to really be sitting in a good position and make sure that he's there for the Olympic Games in 2020. Obviously, it's on every rider's mind who's competing here at FIS, otherwise they would not be here. But we know that Daniel does bring out the competitive side in himself when he rides. Score to beat, 92.60, still being held strong by Jake Leva, who we wound up seeing in our second heat. He was our 7th rider out on the course, as Dare's being our 16th. Dare's with an 80. Wow. Okay. Sitting in 9th place.
Wow.
Little surprised with that score, not knocking it or putting it down. But Dare, I believe, kept his feet on the pedals right there. We're just seeing that the competition's really getting turned up out here. So the judges are really looking for original lines. They're looking for big tricks.
Whoa, that was
sure a rider keeps their feet on the pedals the whole time. But right now, a rider who's looking to keep it together is Australian. Talk about a rider that went back and forth at the top of the podium. 1 year went to Logan, 1 year went to Daniel, and 1 year it's looking to hopefully go back to Australia.
Cork 720 bar spin right there. Just as you were speaking about the highlights of Mr. Logan Martin coming on the FIS World Series, he has just been flowing some height on all of these hits.
Yes, big transfer with that flare. Logan missed one of our stops earlier in the year due to a collarbone break. He wound up getting surgery where he had some plates and screws put in, and it looks like he's riding back to 100% right now as he puts a big front flip across the driveway. Let's see if he can wind up throwing a few more sprinkles on there. And that is time for Logan Martin. So the hyper rider from down under Australia. We look at the contents of run number 1. Look at that backflip with the tail whip sideways.
And the amplitude as well on that Cork 720 bar spin.
Yeah, Ryan, you talk about height from Logan, and we talked about that being a factor. Now, not only are you going high on the course, the judges like, but to get the height, you got to have the speed, because speed plus the momentum will equal the height. And if you can do that, especially with the wind, because you could technically, hey, I'm going to play it safe and not go as high. But when you go up, the probability that something could go wrong from a wind is increased.
Yeah, definitely. So you see, Martin Rantes is going to be the next rider up. And Logan Martin coming in with a 91 even. Good enough for 2nd place right now below Jake Leva, bumping out Dennis Anderson from that 2nd place spot and putting him into 3rd right now as we move forward to the Croatian rider Marin Rantes. We've said a rider who has come to his own and really put his feet down in the pro division of contests. Look at that 360 double tail whip over the channel.
Yeah, we basically have seen Marin throughout the last few years at the FIS World Series graduate through the ranks, developing his own style. Hiroshima this year, he actually went for a crazy spin over the box. Remember, his back wheel just folded in half and blew off his bike. Now he's riding very supercharged as Marin Rantish, the Croatian, tail whips around. I believe that was triple. 1, 2, and 3. That landing's enormous to wind up catching it and coming all the way down as Marin is just pouring it on with 18 seconds.
360 downside tail up on the step up. Coming back with 10 seconds left on the clock. Backflip tail whip over the box jump. Oh! Missing the kick on that. Almost looked like he kicked through his frame.
That is so frustrating. That is what we're seeing with so many of our riders. It's almost more painful at this contest than any other that we've seen when a rider winds up messing up, because it seems like the judges, they're even, for all of our riders out here, it's an even playing field, the scores they're giving. But it's as we move towards Tokyo 2020 Olympics, it seems like the criteria where if a rider messes up, their score is impacted even more. Years past, or even some other contests where maybe the focus is more on progression and not on that consistency, a rider can wind up messing up, putting his foot down, maybe even a crash, and it's not impacted as negatively. But that's why we also switched the best run format as opposed to an overall approach, because a rider could put down a big solid first run and they could go, you know what? I'm going to wind up having some fun in my second run and try to progress or roll the dice a little bit higher. Or it leaves the door open for someone like Brian Fox, where we saw him on his first run bypass even taking that run. He's not penalized for it, and he came back with his second run, where he's still currently sitting in 8th place. All right, well, right now, the big boy from Australia, he won first place out in Hiroshima. Currently sitting in 3rd overall. Last year, finished in 11th. This is Brandon Lupos.
That's a very quick look back right there.
Come on, Lupos.
Lupos getting speed for the box jump. Triple 360 whip.
Ooh, great can-can step through. 360 bar spin with that X up.
Coming back to the wall, getting some speed, going into the big quarter pipe trend. Whoa! Oh, he's okay from that one. Lucky didn't hit his chin on the crossbar. That was a massive, massive air.
Wow. Thankfully, he is okay. Like you said,
I was terrifyingly out of control, but
I was afraid we were going to have a headbanger's ball and he was going to hit his head right on that crossbar. But let's look at the highlights as he goes over that spine, the back end of the frame whipping around. There's that look back you were talking about, super click.
Triple 360 whip right there, and coming. Whoa, just getting a little too high and off balance. Whoa, and held it out.
Thankfully, it looked like he was able to press his chest into the handlebars, and the handlebars gave way going forward. So maybe there didn't break any ribs. Better when your bike takes the stress. That's one thing riders should know. You never even actually want your bike to be 100% strong. I don't mean ride a weak bike, but if you're going to crash, it's better the bike part gives way rather than your body has to give way. So if there was an indestructible bike or stem where it didn't move, that impact would be taken by the rider. The fact that his bars move forward a little bit gives you a little bit of breathing room. Hopefully it went to the bike and not necessarily the ribs. Obviously, there's a fine line between that, and obviously we don't ride garbage.
Yeah.
We ride the best bikes we can, but if something's going to give, you want it to be your bike rather than your own bones. So right now, Daniel Dares, we talked about his first run being a little bit uncharacteristic down at an 8-0. Let's see what Daniel does in run number 2 to make up that gap.
360 tail whip right there instead of a double whip. So actually his first run was a little higher on that one. 360 no foot can tail whip. That's what he did as well in first run. Let's see if he switches it up. Changing the transfer for a cork 720 tuck no-hander into a flare tuck no-hander. Coming back up into the step up. 360 double bar spin. Looking to tackle Dennis Anderson right there. 360 no foot can double whip on that transfer. The only rider we see hitting that transfer onto the backside of the camel hump.
360 onto her elevated portion of the course. Flare. Daniel, This is why he's been on the top of almost every major podium, is because he can deliver when the pressure is on. Any rider can do these tricks when you just have all day to do it, but Dare's right there delivering it for run number 2. So his first run was an 80. He's sitting in 10th place, but we still have a whole nother heat of riders to go. When you have 4 more of your top qualifying riders and you are sitting in any position from 8th through 12th, that means that you could get bumped out of there. So Dares wants to put some distance between. Let's look.
You know, I'm not calling any scores right now. I'm not too sure where things are going to end up. There's just such big talent going on.
Yeah, as we said, Daniel's first score, the 80, was uncharacteristic of Daniel. It just goes to show the judges are really turning it up this year. Again, it's an even playing field. So it's not that they're doing favoritism out there. It's just the name of the game. And look at that, Daniel bumping up with an 87.60. So that's going to give him some breathing room. Definitely, as we mentioned, with 4 more riders to go, he will be in a position where he will have advancement into the final. But that gives Mark Webb, Bryce Tryon, Pat Casey, and Brian Fox something to think about.
Let's see what he's got. This is Logan Martin.
Oh, Logan Martin going high again there with that transfer flare, backflip, tail whip, pardon me.
That's all right. It's a tongue twister out there. The one thing to know is that Logan Martin is keeping it rolling with that flare bar spin. The Australian bomb dropping in it. Whoa!
Oh, love how he whipped that other portion of the 720 round after he got that truck driver, so that makes it a 360 bar spin into another 360.
Logan's another rider whose sights are set on 2020 for the Olympics. Definitely a favorite even this far out. The reason being the consistency of the name of the game, as Logan Martin was our FIS overall champion in 2016 and 15. The year of 17, he finished 2nd overall, so you know he wants to march right back up and put back his crown on his head and hold that cup up high.
That will do it for another absolute legend in BMX. Make some noise for Logan Martin.
A big second run out there for Logan Martin. He takes some replay looks.
Yeah, Ryan, I just want to take a moment and give a lot of props to our riders riding in this crazy headwind out here. Up in our announcing tower, I mean, papers are flying everywhere, coffee cups, umbrellas. It's crazy the amount of wind that's just flowing out there, and Logan makes it look effortless as he does all those backflip and 360 tail whip variations. So Logan, boom, 91.40. Wow. Another big score for Martin. Got 2 of them in the 90s, the only rider to do that today. So consistency and confidence out there. One thing I do want to note, the 2 scores that are put on the board, you might say, hey, that's not important, the second score. Well, in the effect of a tie or something that could be going on, we've seen before where the second score can play a factor. So no rider wants to rest on their laurels. Right now, Croatian cheering on for the World Cup soccer, saying go Croatia go. And right now it's Marin Rantish on the course. Yeah, come on, Marin.
He's got speed going right here. Taking both those hands off. 1, 2, 3.
Oof.
Triple whip the step
3
down.
times around, so crazy. Alley-oop, no-hander, looking to just lace it together here. Like you'd lace a rim, downside 360 tail whip. Come on, Marin. Let's go. 10 seconds. Backflip tail whip.
8 seconds on that clock.
No-hander. Crucial moments here.
3, 2, 1.
Wall ride at the buzzer. All right, Rantish out there getting it done. Run 2, we talked about his first run that we saw where he wound up having that crash. 57.2 was the first. I have a feeling that he's going to wind up doing a lot better. Again, this could shake the pack if you're sitting on that bubble. Mark Webb or Bryce Tryon, you are saying, will this be higher than my score? Webby's at a 73.2, so Marin, it needs a 73.2 or up. We still have a whole nother heat of riders to go. As our crowd is slowly making their way here, we still have a full day of BMX ahead of us in it to Edmonton. There's a look at the judges hard at work. You can practically see the smoke coming off their heads, because they've not only have to watch every single rider out here and give it a score, but they have to judge each rider's score against each other. So what that basically means, the score is determined not only based off what a rider's doing, but they have to say, how does that fit in place where our other riders are at? A lot to remember, a lot of notes to take, and a lot to figure out. So Rantish an 84.40, so that means unfortunately Mark Webb is going to bump out. Bryce Tryon is on the bubble. Pat Casey, Brian Fox, they're the ones scratching their head right now, crossing their fingers. So let's not forget Brandon Lupos also had that difficulty in his first run. Looks like he wound up adjusting his bars back into position. Here we go.
That was a triple tail up, I think. So quick sometimes.
Great look at that look back, man.
Yeah, Lupos rocking the pink and green ODI grips. A little ode to Brett Benisewicz. Shout out to Brett Benisewicz. Big double backflip. So insane to think. He pulled that with the front flip and this wind. Landed a little low. Did his bars move forward? It looks like they might have. When a rider's handlebars move even a few millimeters, it could adjust the entire steering of your bike. If the bars are more forward, it's a lot steeper.
Wow,
so your steering's going to be a lot quicker, and your response is going to be off, and it's going to adjust your weight.
What? How?
That is a good question. How? Indeed. What?
Wow. It looks so far forward, his bars.
Yeah, Lupos, I'm going to clap right now. Hands are together, along with all of Edmonton, saying, yeah, Lupos, defying logic somehow on that flip. So we're going to let our last heat of horsemen get onto the course, warm things up, as we get ready to look at some of the madness from Lupos. So the first run, Lupos had the difficulty, but here is that triple tail whip around. Lupos with that look back.
That was confirmed from Lupos. The bars did go forward after holding on right there. Just incredible. Pushing through to the last
through the camelback with the flip. So crazy. Wow. So big Brandon Lupos out there moving the bars forward, but still able to make it happen. So his first score was a scratch with the 53. If you guys remember, he did that big air on the quarter pipe, tried to really get maximum roast, pulled into the transition a little bit too much. You can see our riders up there waiting for the score to come in. Lupos grabbing his breath. That's Eric Ryzev, who we have on our sheets as riding earlier in the contest. I don't know if maybe he's injured. It doesn't look like he's going to be riding in that last heat.
No, Eric Ryzev is definitely not riding. I was speaking to him before. He's really bummed up his ankle. So, yeah, he's out for this one, I'm sure of it.
Which is unfortunate, and that sometimes happens when a rider winds up qualifying through and last-minute practice, something could go down. Definitely heartbreaking, because Eric is our poster boy for the event. He's got a super quick turn down. You could go on our website, feastworldseries.com, and see the photo that I'm talking about. So Lupos with an 83.80. So he's going to move up to 10th. That means that Bryce Tryon is out. But if you are Casey, Fox, or Lupos, your fate is still in the hands. Same with James Jones. because our top 4 qualifiers have yet to ride. But essentially that means if you are in the top 8, Leva, Martin, Enerson, Tensio, Dares, Sandoval, Nicolin, or Rantish, that means that you have already qualified unofficially into the final. But Jones, Lupos, Fox, and Casey are definitely in that pressure spot. 84.20 to an 82.60. Not a lot of room there, but a lot of props to Tryon, Webb, Calais, and Bondu for getting out there riding with the best of them. But 12 will roll. Let's look at some of the highlights, Ryan.
Checking out some massive spin combinations, tail whip combinations, and just progression definitely of how contest runs are done as we're pushing forward. Still have 1 heat left, and I've seen some incredible riding. And let me tell you, this is only the semifinals out here in Edmonton. Tomorrow, we're going to be having the finals underway, and that is going to happen at 4 p.m. Edmonton time. So you guys need to check that out on the calendar.
Whoa.
Wow, look at that from...
Thank the universe that Brandon Lupus is okay. A rider doesn't want to get stuck when they're flying out over a transition like that at the maximum height you could get with your weight forward. That is not the position you want to be in. Thankfully, Lupos was able to do a second run, and hopefully for him, qualified. As we said, we are not making our way yet for our top 4 riders who have still yet to go, and anything is possible here at the Feast World Series.
All right.
So looking at beautiful downtown Edmonton as we take a look at the last riders to roll, Jeremy Mallett, Rim Nakamura, Nick Bruce, and Justin Dowell.
One man from Japan. We are set to go with your number 4 qualifier from Arizona, USA.
You see right there, 1 life, 1 chance. Jeremy Mallett, recently a father, looking to go big.
Yes.
And that he does. 4 hits in 1, getting those tail whips with the bar spins.
Into a triple tail whip, air right out there.
Mallett showing you why he was one of our top qualifiers. I had a chance to talk to Jeremy earlier in the year, and he said being a father has definitely supercharged his riding. And each stop, he's just been progressing more and more, and you are seeing that firsthand account.
Do you know that he came from Scooter, actually? Well, either way, he's shredding out there on the BMX bike.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Yeah. Oh.
Flip drop with 10 seconds left. Can you squeeze a point out in 4 seconds?
Jeremy currently sitting 12th after the 2-point stops in our race, but Mallett right there throwing down big. Yeah, Jeremy's 720 is really smooth coming up our step, setting up for that flare. Backflip 180 around, that extra little rotation in there. Backflip off the landing. Ah, so frustrating when a rider goes down towards the end of a great run like that. Score to beat the 92.60. Mallett with the 62.60. Not going to be enough to shake things up. Going to sit in the 17th. But right now the pressure will be on for Jeremy's second run. Well, we saw him crush it at the first 2 stops. The young phenomenon from Japan. Currently sitting 7th in our points race. This is Rim Nakamura.
Wow, huge height as well in that triple truck driver.
I just had a chance to hang and ride with Rim at Woodward Camp. Ah, looks like he's going to wave this off. Maybe something wrong with his bike.
Looks like he's going to call right there.
Sometimes, like we saw with Brian Fox, if a rider's not feeling it, they're just going to take a moment. If you're not feeling it, if your head's not in the game, that's what happens sometimes. You got to trust your instinct. If you're not trusting your instinct, you don't do it. Riders wouldn't have gotten this far in their BMX career and wouldn't have got to the main stage here if that was not the case. So Rim will have another opportunity, and since his best run counts, it's all good for Rim if he could put it on. So his score is 17.60, obviously not going to be up on the board. But our next rider who's sitting on top of the board from the United States of America had a big finish in Montpellier, first place. This is Nick Bruce. Nick's another rider I just got to hang with last week at Woodward East in Pennsylvania. Nick Bruce is on one at the current moment and looking to keep that big momentum as he's looking to pour it on here in Edmonton with that look back.
Whoa, getting a little too far, but holding it together still. Coming back to the box jump, 360 windshield wiper.
Yes. Going over that camelback.
You got a table issue. You got 20 seconds if you want to use it.
Looks like maybe one of his gyro cables popped up out. Most riders are not having brakes on their bike. Very few we see with the gyro. It's a detangler system up there where a rider can still use brakes to have certain tricks. Looks like maybe Nick Bruce's knee, we can see it hit and wound up popping out his gyro tab. Excuse me, his cable from the tab. Let's see. Ooh, there was landing a little bit low on that transfer. It was on the 360 backflip where he had the trouble. That was a 360 tail whip to downside tail whip. Nick Bruce, one of the first riders to ever do a 360 double tail whip to downside whip. Give a shout out to Alessandro Barbero, the first rider to do a 360 downside tail whip to regular tail whip. Alessandro just missed our semifinal by one spot, but it's always great seeing Alessandro at the contests. Hopefully he'll make it at the next one to the finals. But right now, your top qualifier, the young rider, Justin Dowell, out on the course. Whoa, triple truck driver, 3 times around with the handlebars.
Yes, alley-oop 360 tail whip to turn down into.
That was the Twix Air right there,
Yeah.
360 with the back end and the handlebars at the same time, known as a tail whip bar spin at the same time. Yes.
Backflip double bar spin.
So right now, Dowell making Virginia proud with that cannonball air. Yo, flare, turn down, 360 bar spin, bars backwards. Dowell showing you why he was the #1 qualifier. There are no blank walls, no blank moments, action-packed with 15 seconds to go. Floating a big no-handed 3. Dowell coming in, pouring it on. Clicking that opposite look back 360.
3, 2, 1.
Wow, big run for the USA rider, Justin Dowell.
Another guy that's been working incredibly hard this season. And it's finally starting to come
So Virginia Beach is where Dowell calls home. But right now he's looking very at home on the world stage here in Edmonton with that run. Let's take a look. Looking back right there, digging it. Unconventional style. To get into that look back. He had that Twix. There was the opposite look back 360, the way his feet could be positioned to wind up cranking into it. So score to beat, Jake Levia, 92.60. The #1 qualifier did it yesterday. Will it be enough in our semifinal?
Jake Levia sitting on that ground right now, 92.6, he's the leader. Everybody's in face mode.
Here we go. 89.60, so Dowell almost cracking into the 90s, sitting in 4th right there. So again, the story is all around that 12th place spot. Unfortunately, Pat Casey bumped out Brian Fox on the bubble. Lupos, Jones, and Rantesh. So Mallet still has not made it. That means that he could bump out one of our riders. If you are Rantish, excuse me, if you are Jones, Lupos, or Fox, that means you have not qualified yet.
Yeah, beautiful flare whip right there. Tuck no hander and coming into the honor quarter pipe. Nice downside tail up. See what he has coming up into the step up. 720.
Yeah, right now Mallet's looking to pour it on. 3 of our 4 riders had difficulty in their first run, and these were our top qualifiers. So it's really a nail biter, not only for our riders knowing the pressure's on. They delivered it yesterday. Excuse me, this morning we had our qualifier. But it really comes down to if you're sitting in 12th, 11th, or 10th place, which is Fox, Lupos, or Jones.
3, 2, 1, this will count. That will count. Make some noise for the USA Jeremy Mallet.
So the score to beat to make it into our final to be one of the top 12 is Jones's score of an 84.2. So the question is, do you think his second run of Jeremy Mallet was an 84.2 or higher? I don't know, Ryan. What do you think here? Let's look at these highlights.
I had said earlier on I'm going to stop calling scores as it's just getting too intricate for my knowledge right now. But
it's a tough call. I mean, this is a nail biter right here. I don't know. I mean, Jeremy, his second run was definitely a different flavor than the first, but he had that boggle. Judges up there, it's like 10 eyeballs, 5 brains trying to figure out where they're going to sit. You know, all these riders, they still ride. These are top riders in the world. They've been in contests before. You name it, if there's been a major platform. Van was actually a Feast champion way back when. And look at that Mallet, not enough, a 79.20. So that is very heartbreaking. You usually don't see that where one of our top qualifiers don't make it in. So what that does mean, though, unofficially, that I believe Jones will make it. So the only 2 riders, Lupos or Fox, and it comes down to Rim Nakamura, if he can do it, or Nick Bruce, and they could potentially bump out our other 2 riders. So Rim Nakamura, the Japanese rider, we saw him punch out and tap out 15 or 20 seconds to his first run. And let's see what he's got.
He's going for the quad truck driver right there.
4 around. I believe the first rider to do that, if you want a fun fact, was Chris Duncan, the Floridian rider who is known for throwing bar spins, and he used to do quad trucks. You probably know that name, Ryan, because he went into the mountain bike world.
He went into the mountain bike world.
Chris was saying it was a joke for a long time. I could clean up. All these mountain bikers didn't know what the BMX tricks were. He had a very big mountain bike career. Shout out to Chris. I know that he still rides and watches the Feast World Series, and he's seeing his influence right now all the way in Japan as Rim Nakamura is coming through with 15 seconds. He's looking to dig deep as he comes off the wall, dropping down. Nakamura, big combo. Let's go, 5 seconds. Come on, Rim. Superman. Bar spin at the buzzer for the Oakley Red Bull rider. Wow, so Rim getting it done on the course. If you are Brandon Lupos or Brian Fox, you are crossing your fingers, toes, and everything else in between. But look at that quadruple truck driver. 1, 2, 3, 4 times around. Think about that for all of our riders out there. Next time you throw a bar spin and you catch it, you go, do I have time? Or what would it take to throw it 3 more times after that at your local park? And then go, you know what? Imagine that in a 360. So the young rider, 16 years old, throwing a quadruple truck driver. BMX is such a promising future in Japan, not only because the Olympics will be there in 2020, but if Rim Nakamura is leading the way, awesome rider, awesome person, and really just someone that I'm excited to see holding the torch moving going forward.
Tomorrow's final.
Just looking over our shoulder, I was actually getting mesmerized from our flatland athletes as they're getting ready
to start their semifinals, which is going to be going on just an hour after we're going to finish this semifinals for the BMX
Speaking
contest.
of flat, there you go. You can see them warming up out on the course. We've got a very stacked heat. 12 of the world's best right now. Alex Jumelin is taking the course. Jumelin, a legend of the FIS World Series. But we're bringing it back over to the BMX park right now as the score comes in. Oh, Rim Nakamura, 83.60.
Wow, bumps out Brian Fox.
Oh,
that is an upset for Mr. Fox as he goes into 13th position, and the Japanese Rim Nakamura.
so that means Lupos is technically in unofficially, and that means that Rim Nakamura, even though he's in at the moment, he's on the outside potentially of depending what Nick Bruce can do. If there's one rider you want to count on for getting a high score, it's usually Nick Bruce, as he's our current points leader in 2017. Nick Bruce wants to be in the finals, tail whip transfer, but the pressure's on and he knows it. It's always interesting to see how a rider can deliver when the cards are stacked, and especially the drama is built. 360, kicking the tail whip around to downside tail whip. Oof.
Oh, big one right there, 360 double tail up over the camelback.
You can see the rider camaraderie. Nick Bruce actually wearing a Logan Martin t-shirt out there, the LM on the chest. Nick is one of the nicest guys in BMX, always down to be supportive of his fellow rider.
Whoa, going for the Dennis Anderson transfer, let's call it.
Whoa, yeah, and if you can see Nick Bruce having a little bit of difficulty on it, it just goes to show how in control Dennis Anderson was on that gap.
Then going for a 360 double downside tail whip, and that huge backflip 360 into an ice pick. That was a big run for Nick Bruce and something he definitely needed rolling through.
Wow, Bruce putting it down when it counts, but the question is, will it be enough to bump out Rim Nakamura's score? We saw it, the quadruple truck driver at 83.6 or higher is what Bruce is looking for. There's a look on that step up, taking another angle 360 tail whip to downside tail whip. Bruce coming in with the 360 double whip, lands a little bit low, but thankfully able to keep his feet to the pedals. There's the 360 backflip, up and over the step up. Nick Bruce putting down a big score or big run. The question is, will it be a big score to match? Feet did not go down, but did have a little difficulty on that transfer. The one thing that does work, as I said, in Dennis Anderson's favor of just showing how difficult it was, he put a tail whip in the mix. If you are Brandon Lupos, you're saying, I need to be in the final, I need the scores, I need the points, because Lupos is currently sitting third. He had a win out in Hiroshima. Nick Bruce, also our current leader, he had a win, except in Montpellier, they've been 1 and 2 neck and neck, and it's down to the wire of who will make it into our final. Oh, and Nick Bruce barely squelching in with an 83.70.
Wow.
So that means Rim Nakamura is out. Brandon Lupos is in. Look at that. You see it in reverse order. That is very untraditional for a contest where Nick Bruce, one of our top qualifiers, along with Lupos, are just barely squeaking in there. Well, Justin Dowell has already qualified for the final. His score is an 89.6. He's sitting in fourth. Does he go out there and put on a demo? Does he try to up his score? Or maybe Dowell, being such a progressive rider, maybe he uses this as a best trick contest. We're about to find out. Ooh! Dowell almost going down. Thankfully able to get the hand on the grip.
Oh.
Yes! Bar spin backing. Quick little T-bump. You can never take your eyes off the dowel.
Nice cannonball right there. Looks like he was going for something a bit more. Might be calling it at this point. 360 whip to fakie. Half cab bar. Yeah.
Getting that half cab with the bar spin, a little flavor for Dowell.
20 seconds. Oh, he's got the ticket bar.
Dowell's a rider who keeps his bike super light. If there's something titanium, it's on his bike. You can see it in the way he rides. Super light bike, probably pushing sub 20, maybe even a little bit lighter.
The females, the AMs, the pros. What a great day. Mother Nature beat us yesterday.
So you saw that Twix Air 360 look back.
We're going to have the amateur finals in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. Be sure to go check out the Feast merchandise.
So Dowell's second score, 86.80. That means the 89.60 is the score of Dowell's. That's going to keep him in that fourth place spot. We see all of our riders out there. Unfortunately, Rim Nakamura getting bumped out. You can see the Japanese Red Bull rider on the outside looking in, but taking a look at the battlefield as our semi results come in. 92.6 is Jake Leva, Logan Martin, Dennis Anderson, Justin Dowell, Kenneth Tensio, Daniel Dares, Daniel Sandoval, Alex Nicolin are our top 8 riders. But we are taking 12 as we get ready to look at Marin Rantish, James Jones, Brandon Lupos, and just getting in there is Nick Bruce. Take a look at that from 11th through 14th, all 83, and the difference that separates each one of those riders, 0.1. A tenth of a point is what separates if you made it or you did not. So crazy to think about that. But I want to give big ups and a lot of respect to all of our riders in the competition, all the way bound to Jake Woolwork, who rode with his heart on the line. Unfortunately, not able to get that top score in the contest, but this was just our semi-final. And let's look at some of the highlights, Ryan, from our contest.
Beautiful action that we had going out here. It's Jake doing some work. Versus, well, there's that 360 windshield wiper.
Here we go, 360 transfer with the look back. I love the way that he was able to get his feet in position in there.
Layout, there was some amazing highlights coming throughout the entire contest from all these athletes. This is one of the most jam-packed semifinals I've witnessed in the BMX world so far this year.
Yeah, it was interesting how shaken up that we wound up seeing the pack. So not only were our top qualifiers down to the wire, some didn't even make it in, and some wound up having some difficulty in their first run. But it's so interesting to wind up seeing which riders progressed and which didn't. This was our semifinal. Earlier in the day, we had our qualifier. There were 24 riders, and as we said, we were only taking the top 12 that are progressing on to our final, which will be tomorrow.
Like we've been talking about, it's just such an amazing contest actually so far. This was so jam-packed. We had riders all the way, like Nick Bruce, all the way down at the bottom. Brian Fox as well pushed out from the bubble spot. He's sitting now in 14th place. Rim Nakamura as well pushing
down
right
to the wire right there. Rim getting in the ring, almost in there, and then all of a sudden Nick Bruce firing back. What a semifinal.
It's absolutely amazing from all the professional BMX athletes coming out here. What were some highlights for you?
Just seeing literally the competition back and forth down to the end, the way that we have this new format, best run counts, it makes it so interesting. The fact that the riders can be out there and you could see somebody like Rim Nakamura say, you know what, I didn't get it in my first run, I'm going to put it to the side and I'll go for that quadruple truck driver in the second run and not be penalized for it. Really making for exciting competition as we're progressing through our series.
For me, it was personally the fangirl moments when I was able to see Dennis Anderson ride. I love this guy. I just am so excited to see what he has to bring to the table for the next events out here on the World Series, as well as for the finals tomorrow. But he did not take the top honors. Let's take a look at the win and run out here in the semifinals.
So here's Jake Leva starting things out with that bunny hop truck driver. That's that 360 with the bar spin. Jake going up on top of her battleship, backflip dropping in. He's showing you what it takes to get that high score in the 90s. 92.6 to be exact. The Tehachapi rider from California. Backflip double tail whip all the way to pedals, looking back on the transfer. Levia over the camelback. Just that back end, lock-loaded, snapping around, whirling 1, 2, 3 times, I believe. Double downside tail whip. You see how he's just over the head tube, able to get his feet on the pedals, smooth, even with that manual. Leva coming back over the box jump, setting up for a 360 can-can step through. Now, the thing that separated Jake from a lot of the other riders was working the clock all the way to the end here. You can see Jake, boom, rotating around and just making it work in his favor.
So there you go. That's how you get on top of this incredibly packed heat of the top professional BMX athletes in the world. But there's not only this action going on. The sun is, well, it's coming down, but it's still warm out, and it's great time for our last event of the day. It's going to be the Flatlanders. They're doing their semifinals. It's going to be myself, Ryan, and Daryl bringing that to you live. And I do believe that's just going to be in 1 hour time. So make sure you guys stay tuned on all the channels. Let's take a look at the overall ranking, however, for the park riders. And let's see how they link up in the series so far.
So if we take a look, Nick Bruce, who we just witnessed ride, is sitting in that top spot with 17,200 points, followed by your 2017 overall champion, Daniel Dares, with 14,400. Then the Australian who just made it in, Brandon Lupos, 10,500 points, followed by Marin Rantish with 10,500. And then Alex Colborn with 9,800 points.
And you can already see how there might be some upsets there. As I see Alex Colborn, for instance, I don't believe was making it into finals. I don't have that exactly all in my head, but this is going to be some big mix-ups in the overall point series battle as we work through to the finals tomorrow. I'm as well really excited to see what there is to bring from all those riders. I thought we saw everything today, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they link all those runs together tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a very exciting course. I think we didn't even scratch the surface on the transfers. Dennis Anderson started to unlock a few today. It's going to be so exciting to see. You also mentioned the BMX Flatland. We have some of the best riders in the world out here for our semifinal. Make sure you tune in, cheer them on. It's so cool that we've got our festival here that are bringing together all the elements of the action sports. And big ups also to our riders who didn't qualify in, but they all rode with their hearts today.
And for one other reminder, thank you so much to the city of Edmonton for welcoming the FWS World Series, to your city, as well as the province of Alberta and Explore Edmonton. Just amazing opportunity that we have to come out to your beautiful city and showcase action sports at its finest. On behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, Daryl Now, and the rest of the FWS World Series, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes, y'all. 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 Woo! Start the party. Celebrate. I'm sick of nonsense. I want to elevate from that familiar feeling. Pick up the road. Stress keeps building. It's about to blow. I'm coming to the end of the line. Check my watch, man. Is it about time? I need to move, y'all. Unrestrained. Come alive.
Evil